This is the one. This is that Hendrixy John Mayer CAGED system move, G shape, but it's the third finger, almost in A minor pentatonic shape 1 position, right? In this video, I want to introduce to you the CAGED system. This is a series of chord shapes that we can use to learn the neck, learn how to play different chords and even scales all over the neck. Whether this is the first time you've come across that word or that phrase, the CAGED system, or whether this is something that you've explored a little bit in the past, I want to explain this from the ground up and show you some song examples and give you some ideas as to how you can practically start to use this in your playing right away. This for me was definitely one of the gaps I had in my playing. I heard about the CAGED system in a guitar shop. One of those wonderful times when you just overhear someone explaining something to someone else and you go, oh really? That's a thing? This was many years ago. I think I was only 18, so it was very serendipitous of me to come across it. I want to take the chance out of it with you guys. I want to make sure you guys are aware of this. So let me quickly explain what this is referring to. CAGED is an acronym to remember 5 chord shapes in this order as well. In the order C major, A major, G major, E major and D major. In this video we're going to just cover all the major chord shapes, but this does work for the minor chord shapes as well. They go in the same order, they use the same kind of idea. But we don't do it in open position, we move these all over the neck. So now I'm just going to demonstrate all the different ways that we can play a C major chord on our guitar in standard tuning. This starts off with C major, of course, but we can play this with an A-shaped bar chord, and that's in the next position from fret 5, because fret 5 was where we finished, or the highest fret we played with the first shape. So all these shapes do overlap and don't miss out any frets, which is the really magical thing about this. The next place that we can play this is using a G shape, but this one is very much kind of academic. The actual shape that we use with this one is either just one finger, which we did in a previous lesson, how to play every chord on guitar with just one finger, but this is the chord shape that would be underneath that, and this is the very popular chord shape at strings 2, 3, 4, and then 5 at fret 7, the rest at fret 5. But this can also ring true if we put a capo or a capo at fret 5 and then play a G chord. By using the CAGED system, you know, as either a secondary or a primary way, that this G chord that we're playing with a capo at the 5th fret is actually a C chord. It sounds like a C chord, and there's all the evidence to back that up. After the G shape, we then have a root 6 chord, which is an E shape at the 8th fret, and that's the E of CAGED. And then finally we can use this octave here, which is again just the C note, and we can play a D major chord, but use that first finger as the root note, or give it the root over A, so kind of on the A string here. But that is still just a C chord, and we can back this up by that little finger. Where that is, I can put my first finger there, play a standard C shape, but 12 frets up from where we started. It's important to remember that those were all the same chord. Those were just all the ways we can play C major. But this can apply, and absolutely does apply, to every chord. We can do this with major and minor, but this can be quite overwhelming when people first learn this. And it can be a case of, why should we learn this now? Is this for me? Is this something that I want to learn? Let me give you an even bigger sell on this. Here's a few riffs that use the CAGED system in exactly the fashion we'll be looking at in this video, but it sort of brings them all together rather than learning an individual song. Let's start off with a couple of John Mayer songs, starting off with Last Train Home. There's a few different ways we can play the chord progression of Last Train Home, but here's one of them. We can play it higher up as well. Also, his song Waiting on the World to Change. We got full tutorials for both of these, by the way. I'll link to them down below. Where do you think this chord shape comes from? This is how to play a D major chord in this case. But if we move this to the C position, this is that exact shape I've just shown, which was how to play the G shape but play a C chord. All of these different ways of playing these chords are used but explained through the CAGED system, because otherwise we don't really get that G shape that we've just used. Another great example would be a couple of ones that again use a D chord. Firstly by the Beatles. Surely you recognise this. This is Norwegian Wood, and this basically comes from actually a C chord shape. There's our C chord, move it up 2 frets, and that comes after the D shape. We're still playing a D chord, but we're playing just 3 notes in this case of a D major chord, but using the CAGED system. We'll explain more about that in a second. I'm just showing you what things are using. That same chord is used by John Frusciante in Under the Bridge. Where do you think that comes from? That's a D chord played with the C CAGED shape, but we don't have to use the little finger. We don't have to play every note out of the shape when we're looking at the CAGED system or any advanced ways of playing chords. That's the real trick. That's what triads introduce to you, if that's the first time you've come across it. That's what I wanted to introduce. But this is the real kicker. This is where that kicks up a notch. Here's that D major chord. Here it is with the C shape. Here it also is with the C shape. Okay, so there are a few examples. The 2 shapes that we're going to try and get the logic around, ways of finding them, and teach you how to play those chords all over the neck using the CAGED system are the C major chord and the G major chord. They're the 2 to get first exactly. If you want to be aware of the other shapes you should learn, it's all the other shapes in CAGED basically. So C, A, G, E, D. They're the other chord shapes to get. And therefore, for example, if you need to know, you've got all your E shapes, but you need to know where to play them in F, you just move them all up 1 fret and you have them in F. Move them up 1 fret again, you have them in F sharp. All the same things that you did with open chords. We just do it with these open chord shapes with the CAGED system. The pentatonics, major and minor, all fit the CAGED system as well, but that's a bit more lead guitar stuff, which I teach thoroughly, pretty comprehensively in my lead guitar program that's available on the website already. But let's, back pedal quite a bit and just recover how to play all these shapes in C that you should know, then apply those same shapes to G, and then we'll leave it there for a bit. I want that to stew for the rest of this level, and we'll apply this as we go forward, really through advanced stuff, really through your pentatonics and stuff like that. But this should make a lot of chord shapes that you use, like in Norwegian Wood, like with some Chili Peppers songs, like with some John Mayer songs, and many others as well, Martin Knopfler songs, for example. This makes those chord shapes make sense, and those lead lines make sense also. Let's dig in, let's do this. Watch the rest of this video 100% free by taking out a free trial at andyguitar.co.uk. Link on screen now and at the top of the description, where you'll also find a link to the full intermediate acoustic course that this video is from. See you there.